Welcome back to the Wedding Buzz. It's your host, Sydney, and today's episode is a little different because we're talking a little less about weddings and more about marriage, which is the point of the wedding day. I think when you're engaged, it's really easy to get caught up in the wedding planning and forget that you're making a commitment here. You know, you're thinking about the dress and the flowers and the guest list and all of it. But at the end of the day, the wedding is one day. And the marriage is the actual lifelong commitment. I honestly think that there are some conversations couples avoid because they are uncomfortable or awkward, but those are usually the exact conversations you need to be having before the big day and before you get married and before you are hitched. I think people lose sight of what matters here. And let's talk about it because it's really, really important. So today I want to talk about 5 things that couples should discuss before they say, I do. All right, hot topic. Number 1, diving right in, money and financial habits. I don't know the statistic. I should have looked it up before this, but a lot of couples end in divorce because of money issues and financial issues. And it's probably one of the biggest causes of stress in relationships. And I think some people are like, oh, I have money. Like, we have money, we're good. But I want to say there's always money decisions and financial decisions to make, whether you have a little bit of money or whether you have a lot of money. Every single couple will need to make financial decisions together. People with a little money are making smaller type decisions, and people with big money are deciding on bigger things. Do we take this big trip? Do we buy this big house? It's still money and financial habit conversations that need to be had, no matter what your financial situation is. So I'm not just talking about how much money someone makes. I'm talking about their spending habits, what they think about debt, their goals, and their financial mindset. Are you a saver? Are you a spender? How do you feel about credit cards? That's a big one. How do we feel about credit cards and debt? Do you believe in joint accounts or do you believe in separate accounts? These are uncomfortable conversations, but they're very important because when you have different opinions on this, it can be bad. I've gone through it myself. It can be really bad. So I encourage you to have very open, very honest financial conversations prior to the wedding. I really encourage you to start practicing it. Don't just talk about it, practice doing it together. You don't have to legally join your accounts before the wedding, but I mean, you can if you want. Maybe have one joint account and have separate ones. But start making financial decisions together prior to the wedding, because you need to see if it's going to erupt prior to getting married, because unfortunately, everything in life really requires a financial decision. Like, a lot of things require financial decisions. And if you guys are not aligned, it's going to cause you to argue in a lot of different places. Like I said, I've unfortunately gone through this myself, of being with someone that had different financial opinions and goals, and it's hard. It's really, really hard. I'll leave it at that, but have the financial conversations prior to marriage, because love is amazing. But if one person is trying to save and build a future while the other person is financially reckless, it's a big issue over time, and it could be detrimental to the marriage. I think couples need to be brutally honest about finances before marriage. 2, second topic, roles, expectations, and lifestyle. I think a lot of people assume things without actually discussing them. What does daily life look like together? Do you guys live together before or after? Are you living together before the wedding, or are you waiting till after? I don't think there's a right or wrong, but I think that it needs to be discussed. You need to talk about, what is daily life like? Do you wake up early? Do you sleep in? Are you okay with the other person waking up early or the other person sleeping in? What are the expectations around work, chores, parenting, cooking, cleaning, and responsibilities? And I again encourage you, don't just this is about what to talk about. So talk about it, but put it into practice. Make sure that the other person is not just saying, yeah, I'll do chores. Yeah, I'll help with laundry. Yeah. Saying yeah is easy. putting it into practice is different. So I would encourage you to, I don't want to say put your partner to the test as in like playing a game, but practice it. Do it together. Actually clean the house together. Actually build some furniture together. Actually get into some situations together, and see how the other person is handling it. And are you guys aligning or not? Do both people want demanding careers? Does someone eventually want to stay home with the kids? How do you feel about staying home? How does your spouse feel about staying home? Have the conversations, because if you have them in advance, it's easy to work things out and talk it out and see if you're aligned. If you don't have this conversation, it's going to be so hard down the road. It's going to be very, very hard. So figure out careers, schedules, and nothing's perfect. You're not going to know everything going into your wedding. Things change, but have the conversations, serious conversations, and make sure that your partner is willing and able to have these conversations. Because if you're trying to have these conversations and your partner won't do it, that's a big red flag. I promise you, it's not going to get better after the wedding. It is not going to magically get better after the wedding. They're not just going to one day wake up and be like, you know what? I really want to have these conversations now. No, if they can't engage in these conversations and be an adult now, good luck. Good luck after. Something to talk about is like, how do you divide these responsibilities fairly with, cooking, cleaning, mowing the lawn, who goes grocery shopping, all of those things. How do you divvy it up where it's fair? I think resentment builds when expectations were never clearly communicated. So it's like one person in their head thinks that the other person's going to, go grocery shopping, but the other person has no idea that that's an expectation. So they're not grocery shopping and wondering why the other person is just mad at them all the time. If it was never clearly communicated, it's going to cause issues. But if it is communicated, it can avoid arguments. So let's not argue over dishes when the real issue is just like communication. Things can be solved if you talk about it before marriage. I mean, if you are married already, you can still talk about it and clean things up and fix things. I don't want to say that, but I'm just saying, if you can't even have the conversation before the wedding, don't think it's magically going to just get better. Something to really talk about is kids and parenting. Couples absolutely need to discuss kids before the marriage. I have a friend who, before the wedding, it was like, I don't know if we want kids, I don't really think so. And as they kept going, she went, no, I don't want kids for sure. And he went, yep, I for sure want kids. And they ended up getting divorced because she was like, I never thought I wanted them, but now I know I for sure don't want them. And he was like, I didn't really think about it much. I didn't really care, but now I decided I really want kids. Well, that would have been a really good conversation to have prior to the wedding, because it ended with divorce. Do you both want children? How many kids? What kind of parenting style do you believe in? How do you want your kids to be raised? Do you want to go to public school, private school, religion, discipline, school choices, family involvement? All of that matters. All of that matters. What is your thoughts on disciplining children? Because that could be a big fight. What are your thoughts on family involvement? How often do you want to see grandparents? How often are you okay with them going to the grandparents' house? And again, some of these things, you can't plan everything before the wedding. Some of it's going to just naturally come up, but it's good to just have the conversation, because if you can't have the conversation and you're not slightly aligned, again, good luck. I think people just assume we'll figure it all out later, but these are huge life decisions. And honestly, if one person desperately wants kids and the other doesn't, love alone usually doesn't fix that long term. It's a really big topic. All right, number 4 is conflict and communication. One thing that I think people should pay attention to before a marriage is, how do you fight? Every couple argues. That's normal. Every couple is going to have arguments and conflict, but how do you handle the conflict? Does someone shut down? Does someone yell? Can you communicate without disrespecting each other? I actually really hope that you do fight before your wedding. I hope that you have a fight before your wedding, because you need to see, how does this fight play out? Do you talk nicely and calmly, or is one person punching the wall? Because I can tell you that if one person wants to sit and calmly talk it out and the other person wants to scream and yell and punch the wall, that's not going to align, And if two people are punching the walls, then you definitely have a problem. You definitely have a big problem. But can the person that you're going to marry communicate? Can they apologize? Can they sit and have the hard conversations instead of trying to win an argument? Can they just sit and listen to you? Can you do that? Can you sit and listen to your partner without just trying to win? It's huge. I mean, I think marriage is almost like becoming business partners. Like you're going to have financial decisions to make. You might buy homes together. You might, having kids. It's like more than having employees, but it's like you might have to you're going to have to make decisions together similar to like business partners, but even more than business partners, And so you're not going to get into business with someone that you can't have a conversation with. You're not going to get in business with someone that you don't agree financially with. So why would you marry them? Don't get blinded by love when underneath you can't actually communicate and can't have arguments that go smoothly. I also think communication during difficult seasons matters way more than communication when everything is fun. When everything's easy and fun, of course you're getting along. Of course that's great. How about the hard seasons? Go through a hard season before you get married. I don't want a hard season for you, but have the hard conversations and see how the other person reacts. See how you react during the tough times. The fifth thing, the last thing that I want to talk about is goals, faith, and a future vision. I think couples really need to ask themselves if they're moving towards the same kind of life. What are your goals? Where do you want to live? And what kind of lifestyle do you want? I've gone through this personally where, someone wanted, all of a sudden wanted to move to acres and acres of land in the absolute middle of nowhere and have a farm and kind of be off the grid completely. Meanwhile, I'm trying to build a business where I need to be at least accessible to nice places where people have luxury weddings. And those are two completely different lifestyles. And, there are some ways to compromise, but we were working towards different end goal. And that's really, really difficult. What role does faith play in your relationship? It is one thing to say, hey, yeah, I'm a Christian. And then there's another thing to actually be daily in your Bible at church every Sunday. And this isn't a shame on like how Christian you are or anything. My point is, if your version of faith in your relationship is that you read the Bible together every day and you journal together and you pray together and you're walking into church and sitting and worshiping every single Sunday together, and the other person's version of being a Christian is like, oh yeah, I believe there's God, but I don't really talk about it or anything like that, that's going to cause issues. That's going to cause a lot of issues. Do you think that it's like the man leads the household or do you believe more in like more modern, like equal partnership? Like, what do you believe in? And I'm not here to get into politics or religion or any of that, but you and the person you're planning on marrying have to have these conversations and you have to be aligned. Don't say, oh, we'll figure it out. Oh, it's okay. Like we disagree, but like we'll figure it out. No, you have to be aligned from the beginning. So what does success look like for each person? What does a day-to-day look like for each person? And what does success in, a family? What does a successful family look like? What does a successful career look like? And your goals look like? What does a successful relationship look like? Have these conversations because love is important, but compatibility in your long-term vision matters too. If one person wants a quiet, simple life and the other person wants nonstop hustle and ambition, eventually that disconnect is really going to show up. And if you're two different types of people, I know there's this one couple. She's a business owner. She is traveling all the time. She's a wedding photographer, but she owns multiple businesses. She does travel destination weddings. She is always up and out and about and here and there and active on social media. And that's her. Her husband has a government job. It's very much like a 9 to 5. It's a lower salary than like what she makes. She's an entrepreneur. She's a go-getter. She's trying to grow. And he's like, I clock in, I clock out Monday through Friday. This is my job. I'm working my way up, but it's, government employee, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that's him, very like quiet, doesn't talk a lot, not on social media. And she is, a bold entrepreneur, out of the box, extrovert type person. They get along because they're like an opposites attract type of couple. But I know that takes a lot of conversations and communication for them to make a life that works for them. So I'm not saying opposites can't attract, but you have to have the conversations because those disconnects can really have a negative impact. I think the strongest marriages are usually two people building towards the same future together. And that same future can be that she has this big business and he clocks into his government job and she's all over the place and he's the steady one. That might be the future that they're working towards, but everyone's going to look different, but you have to have the conversation before. So make sure that we're talking about how you handle stress. What does marriage look like for you? What did marriage growing up look like for you? How were your parents? What did that marriage look like? Are they together? Are they divorced? How involved in extended family do we want to be? What are boundaries looking like to us? What happens if something changes? If one of us loses a career or loses a job, it's really easy to say, oh, I'll be there for you. But like, will they really? Will they really? Have a conversation to figure out what it really looks like and how they're going to handle rocky situations. And how do you support each other during emotional hard seasons? Are you the kind of person that wants to be left alone? Are you the kind of person that wants them to come and sit with you and have them trying to fix it? Everyone's different. You're going to be different than your partner, but make sure that you have the conversation. So at the end of the day, marriage is a lot more than just loving somebody. I love a lot of people, but I don't necessarily think I should be married to all the people that I love. It's a partnership. It's communication, sacrifice, teamwork, trust, and choosing each other over and over again. I really think couples should spend just as much time prepping for the marriage as they do for the actual wedding. And honestly, the uncomfortable conversations are usually the most important ones to have. So this is not coming from a place of judgment. I have been there, done that. I have been successful in some areas and I have failed in other areas. So this is not me preaching at you, but with you of, hey, I've learned these conversations are really, really important and I want you to be set up for success. So let me know if you guys want more on relationship marriage episodes because I do really enjoy talking about this. I think it's really important, but I am not going to pretend to be a therapist or a counselor or anything. I could just share my personal experiences and advice from what I've gone through. So I wish you guys the best, but don't forget the point of this day is that you're planning a marriage, a partnership with this person. And so make sure you spend some time planning for that, along with planning the flowers and the decor and all of the wedding day things as well. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, if you need help planning your wedding, reach out, delightfulplanning.com, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.